So this is going to be our update for this board meeting to the Board of Education and the community regarding our Return Together 365U plan and progress that we're making to date. So as always, our sights remain set on ensuring a safe and secure learning and working conditions for all staff and students. We also know we have to be continually responsive to meeting the flexibly meeting the needs of our learners. Tonight I'm going to have a few updates for you, and I've also re-sharing information that's been shared previously just for the ease of locating this information for the public. And I'm also happy to answer any questions that you may have. So as you know, we all began remote learning, kicked that off, and I will be sharing some updates with that, but our kids jumped right in, and our families jumped right in, and our staff jumped right in. So it wasn't the traditional first day of school, but we were so happy to see the smiles nonetheless. And since then, we are settling in. We're working through the bumps in the road and continuing to take on the challenges every day, just as all of our staff are, our kids, as well as our families. And so while we're in this temporary stage of remote learning, we continue to stay focused on supporting solid implementation and improving remote learning. And in the background, we are preparing for on-site transitions and revised hybrid plans. So I'm going to comment on both of those things this evening. We are continuing to work through monitoring and responding to student needs in terms of learning as well as social emotional needs. So our staff have been doing a tremendous job of being responsive, reaching out to families, helping remove barriers that students may have to engagement. We have a high level of student attendance, and of course our staff, our teachers, our support staff continue to work through any barriers that kids are having for truly engaging in learning and whatever needs they may have in an academic or social emotional sense. Our staff is continuing to be extremely innovative and creative in coming up with solutions for virtual home visits and other ways to connect with our most at-risk learners, and also our students who have special needs or need special supports. We're just continuing that problem-solving effort. It's certainly not easy. It's certainly not ideal. We know that staff are experiencing frustrations just like families are at home as well, but everyone is making the best of it. And we're continuing to plan first for special programs transition back to on-site learning, and then we will be continuing to plan for transition for other specific areas as well, and I'll comment on that briefly. We did send a survey out to families of students in the multi-needs program to gauge their selection for on-site or remote so that we can further work through the logistics, and as being one of the multi-needs and stellar programs as one of the first level of transition back on-site. We shared with you last time about some of the community's partnerships and supports, and we know that we have students and families that are benefiting from having that, and we're very grateful for those partnerships in our community, and I know that many of those sites still have space available if that's a challenge that families have. Our technology staff continues to work through all of the requests for support, more than 11,000 requests for support from families. They're taking care of the device needs, internet needs, and we have more than 98% of students now with a functioning device. They're continuing with their responsive and reflexive model of on-site pickup and transportation partnership for delivery. We're very proud to continue to offer this support both for staff and for families, and work through the technology challenges that have developed. And sometimes you can't always predict those because we do our absolute best internally, but we're also kind of at the mercy of of conditions outside of Valley View. And so we continue to work through those as well. And we appreciate everyone's patience when they do arise. We are continuing an emphasis on digital citizenship and digital safety to make sure that the virtual classroom space is as safe as possible, and that our students are demonstrating safe digital behaviors with a digital learning pledge, expectations for engaging in Zoom meetings and classrooms, embedding lessons on how you present yourself in a digital space, relationships, working through other challenges. So we have a wealth of resources for students, staff, and families, and we will continue, as we do when we're in person, to work with our students in developing these skills as well, because this is critical. And this is kind of an uncharted territory to be living in 100% in this virtual world. I'm sharing this again for families needing assistance with applications. I'm sure they are reaching out to their teachers or their schools. Please continue to do that. And then if you have a physical problem with the device, our help desk, our student help desk remains open. In terms of personnel, we've done a lot of work in the guest teacher task force positions with the hiring and of those individuals to support the needs that we will have for guest teachers. We have virtual training and support for our daily substitute teacher pool so that they are well versed in stepping in for staff absences and navigating the remote world, the remote learning. We are continuing our collaborative partnership with our collective bargaining groups, and most recently there's a survey for certified and classified staff specific to remote learning implementation and support, so we can continue to troubleshoot, find out what the greatest stressors are, find out what barriers exist, and what support our staff need. And so we'll collaboratively go through that feedback tomorrow with union leadership and continue to adapt and respond to ensure our staff feel supported and that they know that we hear them, and then if we need to make adjustments, we will continue to do so. Our nutrition services also continues to be responsive. They had an update provided to them related to the Emergency Meals for Kids program, meaning that we could offer meals to any child in the community under the age of 18. So we are continuing with delivery and curbside pickup. It's very well established. Our staff has been extremely responsive in transitioning to this new model and continuing to respond to the needs of our community. So we're very proud to continue to offer this service at a very high level. Our transportation department continues to do the same in terms of supporting delivery, meal distribution, continuing to support our needs as they can arise for special populations, and being as prepared as possible to have safe transport for our students. So the second, wing of this is preparing for on-site transitions and revised hybrid plans. So while we want to continue to improve remote learning as best as we possibly can, we also know that we want to get our students back with us as soon as we are able to do so safely. I've shared this chart previously twice now, and we are planning to go into stage 2 with remote learning plus transition. That means right now, majority of our students will continue on remote learning, but we are now doing the pre-planning for what groups we can begin to bring on site, and then how we will meet those needs for both remote learning and for on-site learning, be it for special programs or certain grade levels. I'm going to speak a little bit more about that in a moment. We are getting very comfortable with the implementation of staff reporting and notification and contact tracing. And we continue to work with the Will County Health Department as cases arise or consultation is needed. We have finalized student protocols and the self-certification process, so we will be continuing to update and communicate that to families so that families become very familiar with that before students return on site. And we are encouraging our families to report student COVID-19 positive cases or symptoms on the link on the school homepage. This helps us get a gauge of how our students and our families are being impacted, and helps us also prepare to have a pulse on what is happening throughout the community. We've shared with you previously regarding personal protective equipment, day porters doing the high-touch surface cleaning throughout the day, and the electrostatic sprayers, all measures that we're taking to ensure that our buildings are ready. Our buildings continue to be as safe as possible to minimize any possible transmission. We are also working through the signage and floor markings, the physical space audits, and then you heard Assistant Superintendent Grzafi speak to many of the recent updates with the mechanical systems related to the air filters, the HEPA filtration, and then also the electrostatic sprayers and the response vehicle. So monitoring the health metrics is something that we continue to do on a regular basis. The guidance from the Illinois Department of Public Health. On these slides, I won't spend a lot of time here, but each one of the links that's presented is an active link to where you can access this data if you wish to see this. This is data from the Illinois Department of Public Health. And I updated this again this afternoon because there was a new update with the 7-day rolling average of being at 7.2% for our region. Will County is at warning level of new cases per 100,000, but we are finally back on target for test positivity, being at 7.6%. So that is good news when we look at it from a region and county level. One of the more recent developments is how schools are looking at detailed metrics by county, and we look at test positivity, we look at new cases per 100,000, new cases, and then youth cases increase. And so you can see that there are some encouraging signs that those numbers are starting to trend in the right direction. And then the most recent development, which is very encouraging and helpful from my perspective, is through a collaboration with Northwestern Medicine and a data analytics professional, Jeff Sofcheck. This online tool was developed that essentially takes the Illinois Department of Public Health data, the raw data. They don't have access to the raw data, but they take what's shared publicly and then allow you to drill down into that by zip code. So this is helpful for us because we can see how our community is faring in terms of our immediate areas. These are the 3 zip codes that cover the majority of Valley View School District boundaries. You can see those listed at the top, and this again is an active link to this website. I accessed this data most recently today, and you can see that our positivity rate for our immediate area is even lower than that of the region and that of the county. So again, this is very good news. This is encouraging news that we continue to trend in this direction. This is all part of the big picture of ensuring that we can return, and then once we return, we can keep our doors open. So this is critical, and I sent a message out last week to the community, just encouraging everyone to continue to do your part, because what we're doing in the community and then our personal lives does impact the school's ability to safely reopen. I'm just leaving this in this presentation for reference related to exclusion guidance. We are currently implementing this with any staff that are on site for that are symptomatic or have positive testing or that need to be excluded due to direct contact or COVID-like symptoms. This is the same guidance that would be employed when students return on site as well. In terms of internal metrics, district metrics, we are looking at our staff positive cases, which to date since the beginning of August, we have 21, actually 22 as of Friday, staff positive cases, none due to work transmission. And then in terms of known staff quarantine, we have 20 current to date, none due to work exposure. So to me, that is encouraging news. That tells me that when we have had staff positive cases, our staff are strongly implementing protocols, and our contact tracing and quarantining exclusion measures are working, because we are seeing that it stops there. We have not had any additional cases due to work exposure. We are also working on a dashboard that we will be able to use internally for monitoring all of our metrics, but also have a forward-facing public page so that the public can see on our website what the metrics look like to date. So we are continuing our planning efforts to fully prepare for the transition. I mentioned earlier that we are working on our special programs first, related to certain special education programs. A parent survey has been shared with those families. And then later in this week, we will be sending a survey to all families. And this is essentially a pulse check to ensure that we have the most accurate numbers to help us plan a more detailed level of logistics in terms of ensuring that we can provide for students in the remote setting, those families who do elect to keep their students remote, and those who will be coming back on site. Of course, distancing and class size and everything related to that will be a very critical component of determining how many students we can safely service on site and still follow those measures. So when that survey comes out, it's very important that parents do inform us of their selection so that we are able to plan the next level of what does hybrid look like when students do return. From here, we will develop a roadmap to transition back to on-site learning and supports. Our goal is to share the intended plan with a timeline, as it will impact specific levels and learners, so that there's as much clarity as possible about what this looks like and when the potential targeted dates for return will be. for specific groups or grade levels. And as I've mentioned previously, we are looking at a phased approach to transition back in, starting with our youngest learners and those at critical points, transition points as well. We're continuing our communication efforts, doing the best we can from the district and building level. Of course, we're listening to your feedback as well, and we will continue to improve and respond if we are missing something or we need to target a particular area for communications. We encourage you to stay connected on social media and watch your email as well. And we will continue to post information online. And I'm very grateful for our parent network. They have been very supportive of one another, staff and parents, in getting quick answers to questions and offering each other support, because it's certainly not an easy job to be supporting remote learning for staff or for families.